maybe. There we go. All right. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah. Okay. All right, so my subject was manipulating CSS class properties using JavaScript. And sorry, I'm gonna move the box around. So the first thing that we do is and I'm pulling this almost verbatim directly from W3 Schools because it's pretty simple, and it's just a long way of doing the CSS manipulations without doing it through a CSS page. So create an animation container. Here I have my code directly from my page that I'll show you at the end of the presentation. My container, which up here is the div ID box, and down below I have my little things that I have moving around. And then on the bottom box I have another GIF that I had put in there that's a wheel. And so there's our containers for the animation. Oh, this isn't going to cooperate for me. There we go. And then we're going to style the elements. And so at the top of my page, I have my elements that are styled, and we use those through the hashtag to call them. And then you can delegate exactly what you want everything to do. So we have the text align, font size, color, so forth and so on. On these, the animates, you want the position to be absolute, because if it's anything else, it kind of goes off the page versus being exactly where you want it to be. And then for the container, you want it to be relative. Otherwise, it's not going to coordinate with everything else. And it's something that I've been playing with all week, or so far this week, to really figure out what things mean. And then,
sorry, but yeah, you want absolute because it's absolute within the container.
Right.
Okay. And then
that's what I understand. Yes. Because the other option is like relative or inherit. And if you use relative or inherit, it just kind of veers off the page and into no man's land. So.
And have you done anything with it being responsive? Does that, with it being relative?
Honestly, that didn't pop up as one of the options for the position. From what I
know. I just meant if you shrunk the screen, did it have any unintended consequences with it being relative?
No, I didn't see anything change really.
Cool. Okay.
So now we have the animation code and create the animation using JavaScript. And so here's my actual code for part of my animation. My two functions that I have within my container that are supposed to be moving. Sorry, you're going to hear my baby cry now. You have JavaScript animations are done by programming gradual changes in the element style, and the changes are called by a timer. When the timer interval is small, the animations look continuous, and so we can kind of play around with that. And I have two different options set on my container, my animations, to show the difference between how fast it moves and how slow it moves. So if you can see up here at the very top, it says var time, and it says set interval step 20. And then down towards the bottom of the page, you can see var ID equals set interval frame and 5. And so the difference between the 20 and the 5 is going to run a little bit faster, and the 20 is going to run a little bit slower. So the higher the number, the slower it's going to be, and the lower the number, the faster it's going to be. So I'm going to click on my GitHub. And so here we have my first one. So this is going to show my...
I think you need to change what you're sharing.
I'm sorry. Let's try that again. There we go. Sorry, guys. I forgot about that.
It's all right.
Okay, you guys can see that now?
No.
Okay. Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So the container on my code is going to be... Actually, let me stop something real quick. Okay, can you guys still see that?
Yep.
Okay, so the container is going to be the red one, and then my animates is the blue dot, and then underneath there is a purple dot. So as you can see, there's a difference in how you can manipulate how fast they move and how slow they move. The higher the number I said is the blue dot, and the lower number is the purple dot. And then you can also spin the whole thing if you really wanted to, which is kind of obnoxious. So I'll stop that. And then down here, I have the wheel of fortune. And then if you want to spin, you can spin the wheel. If you click it again, it goes a little bit faster. So I'll stop that too. So we'll look at my code. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So here I have at the top of my document, I have all my CSS blocks. And then down towards the bottom, I have my buttons where I call them. And here's my divs where I'm basically putting them in the screen. And then my code down here for my red box with my dots. And then I have my little function down here for my spin on both the red box and the wheel. So I don't know. That's pretty much it. It's like I said, it's pretty simple. So I don't know if you guys have any questions.
So in your CSS code, the animate and animate one are just what, CSS objects?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's just the class name of your box, right? Of your div.
Right.
Yeah. So it could name it whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it better than just CSS transitions. I like it in the JavaScript. That looks good.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's kind of nice. It makes for a very long document, but it's kind of nice because you can just kind of scroll up and change what you need to and modify instead of having to switch back and forth to pages. So I guess it makes it for a little less clean looking code because it's busy. But yeah, otherwise that's CSS manipulations in JavaScript.
Well done.
All right, thank you.
David, is that you wanting to go next?
I can go next.
That was a drum roll for David.
It was.
All right. Okay. I have, let me see here. I'm not seeing my screen. Give me 1 sec here. Maybe that's it. Sure. All right. Is it showing? I don't know. It's showing my whole screen, huh?
Yep, we can see what you're doing.
All right. That's showing the slide.
Yep, we can see that.
All right. I have JavaScript events. Maybe it's something that maybe there's something I missed, but it didn't seem to be too terribly difficult. So what I have here is events that happen in the HTML or the web page can execute JavaScript code. These events can be used to verify user input, user action, and browser actions. They can be used every time a page loads, page is closed, click the buttons, or data is input. These events can execute JavaScript code directly within the tag, or can just be called the function can be called from a separate JavaScript page. Events, I got on-click. It's very well used. You'll see that a lot when they click on a button, use the on-click. And there's on mouse over. It's when you hover over an element. On mouse out is the mouse moving away. On key down, on change, and on load. And there's a long list, far more than here, what I got that you can use. In your
Quick question about the on key down. Is that any key? The user pushes the any key? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I would imagine so, yeah.
I think on key down, it passes a parameter with, or there's a way to figure out which key was pressed, and you have to handle which key was pressed inside the logic.
You have to or you can?
You can.
Okay.
Sorry.
And inside your HTML page, this would be your element inside the tag type of event, whether it's on click, on load, or whatever. And then here you'd either have the JavaScript code or the function that it would call, and you'd have your code there in a separate page. Can you still see my screen?
Yep.
Here I have a real simple demonstration for what I had. So the screen was white, and on load it changed it to gray. You guys can see the screen that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then on the clicking the button, I just have in the code, it's just an on click, and then it calls the function, which in the JavaScript it changes to the new text. In this input field I have where on focus, you click in there, change the background color to green. If I step out, on blur, changes it back to white. And then I also have an on change, which if I enter my name and I get out, it changes that div, or I think it's a div, I'm not sure, with the JavaScript. Let me see. And then for the code, in the HTML page, you guys see, is that showing?
Yes.
Just right here in the body on load, I got a function that calls loaded. On click, I got the function in the JavaScript files clicked. On change, I named the function changed. On focus, then on blur when it exits the input field. And so here I got the same functions in here. Just document got element by the ID for the body, and then style changes the background color to there, and then change the inner HTML to that new text when that one's clicked, and yeah, and then so forth. I mean, pretty straightforward. Unless there's something that I'm missing, I didn't really seemed pretty simple to me, unless there's something else that you guys would know that I not getting. So that's all I had.
Cool.
No,
So,
you're right. JavaScript events are pretty straightforward. You can do dozens of different kinds of events, and it's just a few lines of code.
What's that?
He said you're right. They're pretty simple, and you can do dozens of different events with just a few lines of code.
Oh, yeah. So
If I can just share, so I actually have been working on something for another project, and I use these on change. I've been using on click for buttons for forever, but on change, so like I wanted calculations to show up in an input field. So like where you had in your code like dot inner HTML, I used dot value, and then it showed up in the input field. Just a little FYI if anybody else needs to do that.
Yeah, I used the same. Well, I didn't use it in events, but yeah, if you use dot value, I used that in local storage, I think, to keep the input that you input in the input fields.
Oh, okay.
They're persistent
Okay.
on each load, but yeah. So yeah. Dot
Cool.
value is a good way to manipulate.
And also, I thought it was only like per button. Like I thought you could only have it like one time on the page kind of thing. Like, oh, I'm running this function. But I was so surprised, like I can put it in all my fields, like the same function, because I want it to change. Like I want that calculation to change if any of those fields change.
Yeah, that's cool.
I have a question, David.
Yeah.
Do you have like a GitHub or somewhere that we can see your code after this? Somewhere we can access it to look at it?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, on the
Is it on the Slack channel already?
no, but I can put it on there.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
So that's all I had.
So who's left to present?
I think it's Ty.
Are you there, Ty?
Yeah, hi, I'm here. Okay, so give me a second.
And Ty, I always think of you as Ty because you were in Thailand the first couple weeks of the semester. Oh, Ty from Ty. Huh.
Give me 1 second.
And Christine, I didn't realize that you and I look alike. Like in my Zoom, we are like beside each other.
Ty, you're muted. I don't know if you know that.
No, 1 second, sorry.
Once you're starting to present with
Okay. Oh, I should probably share the screen. Okay. Share screen. How do I share? Cool. Can you see my screen?
we can.
Okay. Wait, is this the right screen? See my mouse?
I said we see two windows. We see your browser and your code.
Okay, great. Okay. So I got a bit mixed up, but this is all I have for animations. But anyway, here we go. So I'm doing animations. This is a pretty simple slide, just like 3 slides. Anyway, so animations, useful in your code when you want to make something more appealing. The general uses of this in real life, like if you're trying to show orientation where the user is in relation to where they were. So say like you have a page and it says, fill out this form, right? And you're filling out a form to purchase an item or something, right? So you purchase that item, you click next, it brings you to the next page. Maybe there's an animation on that page that, flips through the page to show that you're going onto something new. So as to like where you were, or you can click the back button, it'll transition back. So to show you where you were opposed to where you are. So you could use that. Another thing you could do with that is functional change. This could be like an on and off switch. So if you click, it's the same button, but it does something different each time you click it. So it's like you click it once and it's, it's off, and you click it again and it's on. So you could have a button that represents doing different things. I suppose you could do that with a submit. Say you wanted to, I guess you could put that in a form and then have two different, no, that wouldn't work. Oh, you get the point, never mind. So there are new elements, like what am I looking at? So something new is introduced. You can use an animation to do that. And I have a few examples. Well, I have one example actually, and it's pretty simple. This is the code. It's just a simple HTML page with a class flag, and then all of the code really is in the CSS. So this is my flag CSS. I have a container. That is the container, right? In a div, excuse me. So it's in a div. If we look here, it's in a div within a paragraph. Sorry if I'm going kind of fast. And then, so you have different, what are they called? Properties. So the animation property is the main property for animations, I guess. And then these are the properties you have. You don't have to write them like this. So you could actually write that out like, well, actually, wait, let me go back. These are the main properties. I have most of them. I don't have play state, but I have most of these. Play state would be like paused or not paused. I didn't write any JavaScript to go with it, but if I did, you could like pause the animation. Anyway, this is what it does. It just draws a flag. It's the Japan flag. Anyway, how this works.
That's cool. Nice.
How this works, you have the delay here, or the duration here, so you can expand this over like 10 seconds or 8 seconds or however long you like. So if I put it for 10 seconds, then it would take 10 seconds to actually draw the entire circle. And it changes colors. So here, it works in frames, excuse me. And to keep it at 60 FPS, at 60 frames, which I'm pretty sure it is, it might be 30, but anyway, at state 0, which is, you can change this to any percent you want, So I have 0, 25, 50, 75, 100, but it could be, like I could throw in like 30% here, and then, background color, I could change that to whatever I like. So say I wanted to do background color of orange, ORANGE. And then if I wanted to put another border, so the border, I guess I should actually explain what it actually does first. The border is changing the shape of what was a square, right? And then it slowly changed it into a circle as that went on. So really, I wouldn't be able to change that. I mean, I could, but to keep it simple, do that, right? I think that works. And then
is it the percentages or the pixels that determine if it's going to be a circle or a square?
Yeah, so it's the percentage. So it's the border radius that changes it. So every time you so to go to, it's 0%, so it's square now. And then 25%, then it is this quadrant here. This is top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, I believe. I could be wrong. And then
so left and top just positions?
Yeah, and then, yeah, exactly. So I just change it slowly. Let me get rid of this. As each one goes by, I just change it by 1. So here I have 1 corner, 2 corners, 3 corners, and here we have all 4 corners, which transitions into a circle. And then for the position, I just move it over by increments. So here I have, 21, 6, 42, 12, and until I get to the center. It's not exactly center, but it's the most that I could, oops, sorry, that's not gonna work. It's the most that I could, it's whatever I could do. Anyway, so back to the properties. These are properties. And you can change these. So say if I wanted to, so this saves the state. This is the last state that it was in the fill mode. If I wanted to put this, I could do reverse, and it would actually start backwards. Okay, maybe not. Okay, all right, this doesn't work. IVERC.
I think
Well, it could,
it
CSS
starts
is
in red.
cached.
Oh wait.
Yeah.
Maybe it's.
Is it animation direction?
Honestly, I would refresh. I know, like, troubleshooting CSS will drive me nuts because the browser caches things.
Oh, there it goes.
Yeah.
There you
So now it's going backwards. That's confusing with the forwards here. This just means that the last state is.
Well,
I think you're right.
Well, I think the fill mode is going to be the color of it, how the color goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I had better definitions for that. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all on Google.
It's all kind of rushed. Anyway.
You're fine.
So system status, visual feedback. So like, these are things that are relative to the actions that are being presented on the screen. So give the user feedback on what they're doing. So say, you want to send an email, you have an application, you have an email application, and you press the send button. Animations can help get that message across that, okay, the message has now been sent. You can continue on to what are you doing. You never want the user to question whether or not your system has hung up or is not doing anything. That brings us to the next thing, which is system status. Like progress bars are probably the biggest one. I use those all the time in like Java applications. I'm doing something like or the backend has to process, like count how many, I don't know, has to index something, for example, or do a binary search, and it's got a ton of things to process. You want the user to know that something is still going on. They're not just waiting. So animations are typically really good for that, but unfortunately, I don't have any examples of that. That's really the whole presentation. You can also do this. You can change this to infinite, and I mean, there's a ton of different things you can do. Now this will infinitely loop going backwards. And I should probably change this from 10 seconds to like 2, so it goes a lot faster.
I want to see it fast. Woo!
Yeah, but this you can change. You can mess with the height and. Oh, so it has an aim. Sorry. So if you wanted to make another one, you would have to give it a name so that you can use it in your keyframe. Like I said, you can do it like this, or you can do. You have one other thing to show you. You can do.
I believe it. We want that.
Oh, sorry. Well, I have it. Okay.
It's fine. You do whatever you want to do.
Let me comment it out. Actually, you know what? I'll just copy it. And then I'll paste it here for now. Okay. So you want to do a from to. You can do, if I don't do this wrong, from, do background yellow to ground, say we wanted blue, right? So let's make it red. That should work. I could be wrong.
You don't need semicolons at the end of your line?
Oh yeah, I do. Okay, well, that doesn't work. Okay. It does work, but I don't know the syntax, and that's probably a really poor excuse. But anyway,
No, this is great. You're like coding on the fly. That's tough. Coding under pressure.
it does work, I promise. I just don't have the syntax, and I could look it up, but that's kind of unprofessional. Anyway, that's all I have. I know it wasn't a lot.
That was great.
But yeah, that's it.
I appreciate what you said about it being for visual feedback, because honestly, whenever we talk about CSS transitions in other classes, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so gimmicky.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, transitions isn't much different.
Or animations,
like animations, you can make, well, they don't have to be automatic, but transitions are more,
Can you see that?
You hover over something or you interact with something, and then it happens. But animations are typically used like you just do something, it just happens. But it doesn't have to be though. You can hook it with JavaScript to do other things.
Well, I think that we did something in another class and it absolutely blew my mind, but we used like 2 divs to cross to make your little X to like, so that, you know, when you click it, like you open up something and then you click and the X pops up and you click it to close. We did that with CSS with like the little divs. Wild. But anyway, that was useful. I was like, that is a div? That's CSS? I thought it was an X. I put an X. I put in text.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Looks like the only thing you were missing from your from and to example were curly braces.
Oh, was I? Let me see if I can try that again. Let me see, so from and to. Background.
If you're
Yeah, we
share
can't
your
see
screen.
your screen.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah. You want to see?
We want to see the magic happen.
Okay. Let's go blue. From and to, right?
Are those curly braces?
Curly braces.
Yeah, they should be. You should have a starting and a closing curly brace. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't. These are curly braces, right? Is that what these are called? These are brackets.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It kind of looks like a bracket from my screen.
But I think you need
an opening and a
closing. Yeah, you need a closing for from, right?
No, he does.
So
At the there's one at the very top.
There's one here. Oh yeah, this one here.
Yeah, but you have 3 opening and 2 closing. Oh.
Yeah, it's
gotcha.
good.
I think
so, but the 2 is nested in the from.
Yeah, it needs to be outside the from, I think.
Yeah.
Oh. I got you. Okay.
Because it's working, but it's not going to blue. It's.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so that's in that.
And then take that
Yeah.
one out. There you go.
And then just fix it. Okay, sure, whatever.
Fix the indentation.
There you go.
There you go.
Nice.
Okay, so it does work. Obviously, there's other code in there that you could do, but You can also do to and from.
Right.
I guess is.
I was trying to look for something like that to do in the JavaScript, and it's like impossible.
I'm sure this probably would have helped you a lot, because I was looking at, what you were doing. I was thinking, well, this kind of goes a lot with what I was doing.
Right.
You did keyframes, didn't you, Laura?
Something along those lines, but I stayed away from that stuff because I wanted to do just the JavaScript manipulation.
Cool.
And I know keyframes was CSS3.
And then if you need to do multiple, like you can't layer two froms, right? I don't think so. Like if you needed multiple steps, you would just do like what you had initially. Like
Yeah, I think
at 25% of the animation, it needs to be at this point. At 50%, be at this point. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because as we saw, you can't nest. Or maybe you can. Maybe you can nest two from, and twos. But I didn't experiment with that.
Yeah, I didn't know if you could have like multiple from twos within the same function.
Try it.
Yeah.
Break it.
I'll see. I don't know, but okay. Fix this. Anyway, that's
Yeah, sorry. Silly questions.
Now he's over there trying it.
Yeah, I am. I don't know. I don't think it works like that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think that if you wanted it like that, you'd have to do what you had the first way.
I'm just gonna look it up. It's the best.
Ooh, good job.
Is there anything else?
No, you did a good job. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think that concludes our session, doesn't it?
Yep.
I think so.
Anyone need any specific help with topics?
Time, more hours in the day.
Yeah.
Don't got those. Sorry.
So I guess, are we going to figure out what we're going to do for the last section or week?
Weeks.
Last week's.
I thought we voted on this.
Were we going to stick with that? Because I don't know.
Chris deleted the poll.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I didn't see the poll. I saw that it had been deleted.
He's just going to tell us what the results were.
What were the results, Chris?
I'm honestly good with
Whatever he wants.
whatever people are more comfortable with. I can do whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I got rid of it so I could just tell you guys what the results were.
There you go.
No, everyone, well, 3 people like right away said that they wanted to stick with how the schedule was. And like, I'm fine with it. Like that makes sense for the most part. It's just when we get to the last week, we have a couple of topics that I thought we should touch on more than just like once or twice. Instead of like having 2 weeks of HTML tags, like that's going to be a 10-minute lesson on like that. We've already been using those. So
Yeah. The whole semester.
I agree.
I mean, we can go on and on for about semantic HTML for a long time. I don't know what you're talking about.
So I was just thinking
I was going to say,
another
I'm sorry,
CSS.
I think we should just drop the HTML tags, the second set, and we still need to touch on it. It can be, we can just add it into maybe like a 4th topic and add another topic for somebody else to.
What if people showcased what they've done and learned? Like people, like you could do like 5 minutes or 6 or 7 minutes or something to be like, hey, here's this thing I did that I really like learned something from. Because I think we always learn from looking at other people's stuff,
Right.
Yeah. I like looking at the showcases that Brother James puts up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So do we need to go over standard JavaScript events again next week? It seems pretty simple.
Yeah, and it's stuff that we're used to using.
Yeah, it looked like I have the thing up. Laura, I think next week that would have been yours. So if there's something else you've already been working on, you want to share.
Can you put callback functions on events?
I don't really know what that is. I've heard of
Be a
them.
good research topic.
What was that?
Be a good research topic.
A callback function is like a function that happens after that event. Like once this code finishes, execute this other function.
So personally, I think like along with the CSS stuff, I was kind of hoping we'd get Ajax again.
On animations.
Pardon, Brother James?
You could do that with animations when an animation is complete. You do have, when you're doing a touch, what have you got on touch? You got a touch start and then you have a touch end. I'm not sure if that was some of the things that you were thinking of.
I was just curious. I thought I had read somewhere there were callback functions on some of this stuff, but I didn't know for sure.
Well, and that's how you can set up the actual code. If you're using can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's kind of muffled.
Yeah, not.
All right, can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
We can.
Yeah.
All right, now I need to put you on the speaker. What was I saying? Just when you add, if you use the get element by ID and then you have an add event listener, what you're doing is setting up a callback function for that event. So that's actually what that is. You're giving a method that will be called back when key down, mouse move, touch start happens.
Oh, okay. So interesting. So yeah, all right. So because we haven't covered event listeners yet, have we? No. But yeah. So
Well,
good to know.
the event listener is exactly the same thing as when you put on click inside of an HTML tag. Now, if you've got an input and you put an on click for a button or a on key press for an input field, that's exactly the same thing as using add event listener.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And so if you're using multiple like if you have multiple event listeners, you can't just like comma, like on click function, comma, on blur, comma, on mouse over, comma. You'd have to do that add event listener and then add in those.
Well, you could, on your HTML, you could put on click and then the JavaScript function to call. You wouldn't put commas in there. You would just say on click, on mouse move, on whatever. But if you want to have a proper model view controller, the best separation is to remove the on clicks and such out of your HTML, because that's actually a JavaScript action. Mm-hmm. And so add event listeners getting to be, I think, is more of an appropriate way to associate a function with with something that you want to do on the page.
How do you add an event listener?
How?
Yeah.
I
well,
think isn't it a Java? It's a DOM thing, isn't it?
So you put it in your JavaScript functions file, like just your script file. If you don't put it in HTML.
Yeah, you do. Let me. I'm not sure how fast I can bring this.
That's all right.
I've got it.
I can
I'm
Google
actually
it.
Sitting here let's see. Is this group 2?
We're group 5.
Which group, guys? Oh, you're group 5? Okay. I was just trying to, because you're sitting here on my phone, and at this moment I'm goofing around with some
Okay.
code.
I got a sample here from W3. Whoops, wrong sample. Screen 2. Okay, so yeah, it's you get the element that you want to add the event to. You say add event listener, and then you tell it what kind of event, and it looks like you drop the on. So you're not doing on click, you're just saying click or blur or mouse over, and then you give it the function that you want it to perform. This one, it looks like it's an embedded function. So it's like it's declaring the function within the assignment, but you could put you could put whatever function you wanted right there.
Yeah, and that operates the same way as it in the HTML. That's lovely.
Right. So this you could put in your JavaScript. So like if you were dynamically creating a page, like loading it off of a JSON file or something, and you wanted it to have the same event listeners and stuff for an element that you're creating off of that, you could add these onto it, and then so you could add in your animations and stuff like that.
Or if you just want random JavaScript functions throughout your page, like you could see them all in one spot. Nice.
So,
cool.
Also, with this method, add event listener, you could have multiple on-click event listeners if for some reason you wanted to do that. If you put it in your HTML, you can only have a single event listener for click. You wouldn't want to do that too much, but it gives you that ability.
I am sold. I'm going and changing my code now. Serious.
thank you.
Thank you. That was great.
A few questions.
Cool.
Okay. Sorry, that was a little off topic.
That's why we're here.
Whoops. But what were we talking about?
Event listeners. Can you not remember?
The schedule. We were talking about the schedule before we went.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave you guys. Good luck. Have a good rest of the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, Brother Jake.
You're listening. Somebody actually read my emails. It makes me happy to know that. That's what I wanted you to do this week.
There's actually a question on the board where the announcement is posted. So, but you told us not to mention it.
Yeah. All right.
Delete it.
Still waiting for that.
All right. Good night. I look forward to finding out what your favorite movies are.
All righty.
All right. I'm going to stop this recording.